Good morning. Welcome to the fourth edition of our Personal Financial Literacy Series. My name is Mary Crawley, and I'll be talking to you today about identity theft, what is identity theft, and what you need to know to protect yourself. Again, I'm Mary Crawley. I have hopefully a little bit of street cred for speaking about different financial areas. I have about many years of experience in teaching and counseling, and recently have been working with especially military clients in an emergency assistance program, working with when people are having issues with their finances. All right, for today, our agenda, we're going to be talking about what identity theft is, how susceptible are you, recent national reports regarding identity theft, who are these identity thieves, what different types of identity theft, the 3 steps: deter, detect, and defend against identity theft, and what to do if it happens to you. So first, what is identity theft? It's fraud committed via stealing and unlawful use of key pieces of your personal information to benefit someone else other than you. So when bad things happen to somebody's good name. And next, are you at risk? We're going to take a little 15-question quiz to find out what your risk level is. So if you'll take a pen, you're going to have to score yourself a 0 or the points that are associated with it for each of these questions, and this will give you a little idea of how much you might be at risk for identity theft. So first, give yourself 10 points if you receive offers of pre-approved credit and if you don't accept them, you do not shred them. If you don't shred those things, give yourself 10 points. 2, you carry your Social Security card or other document with your Social Security number on it in your wallet. If you do that, 10 points for number 2. 3, give yourself 5 points if you do not have a post office box or a locked, secure mailbox. I have to give myself points on this one. 4, you drop off your outgoing mail at an open, unlocked box or basket. If you do that, give yourself 10 points. So if you drop it off in the post office directly so that it's secure, handed to secured people, you're safe. If you just put it in your mailbox outside that doesn't have a lock on it, that's 10 points.
Universal. But what if you use
the blue box?
The blue box, that's secured.
That's it. Okay. So 0.
So then 0 if you drop it in the blue box.
Okay.
5, 10 points to yourself if you have sensitive personal data posted online, like a blog or on social media.
Define sensitive.
Your address, your name, your birthday, possibly your phone number, where you work, information about any health conditions that you have.
I always leave self-employed on there. I'm always
6, 10 points if you do not shred or tear banking and credit information when you throw it in the trash. 7, 20 points if you provide your Social Security number whenever you're asked. Someone says, "Can I have your Social Security number?" and you rattle it off for them, 20 points. And 5 points, give yourself 5 additional points if you provide it orally without checking to see who might be listening. 8, give yourself 5 points if you have to use your Social Security number as an employee or student ID number. 9, give yourself 10 points if your Social Security number is printed on an employee badge that you wear. 10, give yourself 20 points if your Social Security number or driver's license number is printed on your personal checks. 11, 5 points if you're listed in some sort of who's who guide. like an alumni directory or some sort of, if you belong to a professional association and you're listed and your personal information's in there. 12, give yourself 20 points if you carry an insurance card in your wallet and it contains your or your spouse's social security number. 13, give yourself 10 points if you have not ordered a copy of your credit report for at least 2 years. 2 more. 14, give yourself 5 points if you write checks with a regular pen instead of a gel pen with ink that can't be washed. And 15, give yourself 10 points if you do not believe that people would root around in your trash looking for credit or financial information. If you think, oh, no one's going to go through my trash.
We go back to number 7.
Yes.
So, like, what if you don't give it every time you're asked, but if it's like certain types of places?
We'll stick with it being very pure. Whenever you're asked, you give it. If you give it whenever without questioning, give yourself 20 points.
But
if you're more selective about it, then
okay.
you can give yourself 0.
If I'm selective, okay.
So, what if you like provide your social security number? If you just do the last 4 numbers, is that a sacrifice?
Last 4 numbers, let's say no. We'll say the whole thing.
Okay.
What if you're selective, but you have given it orally in the past?
Well, I'll let you judge on that. Which one, if you think you should give yourself points or not.
I'll do 10.
Okay, so add up your
I'll
score.
say I should do 10 too.
Okay, add up your total. And we're going, this next page will kind of give us how great your risk might be based on your score. So, if you're 0 to 50, congratulations, you have a high security IQ, keep up the good work. 50 to 100, your odds of being victimized are average, higher if you have good credit. And if you're over 100 points, take notes about what we're going to cover today, because you might be at some serious risk for identity theft. And invest in a shredder. Go to Walmart after we're done today and get a shredder. Okay, so trends in identity. I won't ask you to reveal what your numbers were.
Oh man, that makes for better TV.
Well, here, should we say can we just ask if you're off camera, or is everyone on camera?
Yeah, we're on camera, but I can edit it out. It's not saying I will. No.
Let's see, anybody in the high risk category? Medium risk category?
I was in the medium risk.
Medium risk category, low risk category. Good job, all right.
Good job, Tasha.
Yay. Okay, so these are national trends in identity theft, and this is brought to the Javelin Research Group that looks into these things. Last year, 13.1 million Americans were victims of identity theft. That's a lot of people having to clean up a lot of mess. Cost $15 billion. The EMV, that's the chip cards. So while that makes it harder to steal things point of sale, now the fraudsters are looking to open new accounts to steal your information. So the chip cards aren't solving all problems. New account fraud is accounting now for 20% of all fraud losses. So if they're foiled in one direction, they might try something new. And then, how serious is this? Well, obviously if it happens to you personally, it's extremely serious, but it costs a lot of money and a lot of wasted stress and effort when it happens. In the last 6 years, fraudsters have stolen $112 billion, which breaks down to $35,000 every minute, which 3 seconds, that's college fees for a year. 2 second groceries for an average family for 8 years. An average mortgage on a house for 2 years. I mean, the losses are huge when you look at it into what could this really mean for me? What could that financial money mean for me? Other trends in identity theft, we probably all, anyone heard about the increase in tax theft? Stealing your tax refunds has been a huge crime. That's this government documents benefit fraud that has skyrocketed lately. That's mainly drawn by the tax fraud. Total financial fraud has dropped, as have utility and employment-related fraud, probably because they're doing a better job of keeping your data secure overall. But it's still there are obviously 15 million people were affected last year. It's still a big problem. Now, who are identity thieves? There are lots of people, could be people who are drug users or desperate for money. Unfortunately, it can be fellow employees in your business. And most unfortunately, sometimes it's a family member or someone close to you. This graphic just shows lots of our sources where personal data is maintained. And as you will notice, some of these things are very much within your control as of you and what you tell and give to people. Of course, your phone, the internet, your computer, your trash, your mail, and then unfortunately some of this is outside of your control. The information that we have to give to companies, and we trust that they're safeguarding our information, that are maintained in databases. And as we've all heard on the news, sometimes there are some breaches of these databases that puts us at risk, even though we had no control over the way that they protect our data. And lots of information is stolen by thieves, from your name. We've talked about very much so in that quiz, your social security number being very huge, credit card numbers, passports, things that are stolen from you like your wallet. So lots of personal information stolen by thieves and used to benefit them and not you. And there are lots of different types of identity theft, so everything from credit card theft, health insurance fraud, when they hack to get information, when they open accounts in your name, lots of different types of identity theft. And we're going to go into a few of these in more detail. We talked about in the quiz, Social Security, that's a huge one. These can use your Social Security number to get a job, and then they're getting the income from it and you're paying the taxes on it. Or they can use that number to file a false tax return and get your refund that you earned. Or they can apply for different types of credit, get a driver's license, and lots of other things. That Social Security number is so important to protect that. And unfortunately, there's a market for this. 10 million are bought and sold every 6 weeks. Children's identity theft. Your children can be at risk for identity theft, and children are ideal because they probably have clean credit histories, and we don't regularly check our children's credit for anything. So it can be years before you find out that there's an issue with your child's Social Security number or accounts being opened in your child's name. But that's something that you need to be aware of, and that can be a risk. Medical identity theft is something that's certainly growing. People will pay for cards, medical cards, buy those on the black market, and to use those to obtain medical procedures, and that can cause you lots of headaches and stress, and you can be denied for coverage for yourself because of existing conditions that someone else has claimed, so that can become a huge headache. We talked about this one with Social Security numbers. Tax refund identity fraud, that's really a growing crime. It's just someone else can claim your refund, claim your children as their own dependents. And just a few warning signs with that: if there's a delay when you file and you getting your refund, or if you get an IRS notification that you've had a duplicate tax filing, or if there's unreported income. Driver's license theft, your driving privileges could be revoked if someone else tries to get a driver's license, or uses your name and information to get a driver's license. You could be arrested during a routine traffic stop because something pops from your driver's license that's not the one that's yours that you're carrying. And they can use that license as that national identification that we kind of have adopted our driver's license as being, to open accounts and apply for credit in your name. And this was a story about a service member who was serving overseas came back, someone had stolen his identity, gotten a driver's license, and he had all kinds of financial fraud and arrest warrants and child support being garnished from his paycheck, and it was a huge problem. Financial identity theft is a huge and growing crime because it's not messy. People, especially now that so much of our data is on computers and databases, thieves can just go in and take that without having to get close to us physically. Then they can wipe out your bank accounts, open credit accounts or credit cards in your name. There's less risk of being caught. They could be halfway across the country or halfway across the world and trying to get this information and cause you problems. So, lots of tactics used by identity thieves. Phishing, that's kind of sending out information, trying to get somebody to buy it. That could be that email or that piece of mail that comes that's trying to get you to kind of ask questions back so that they can get your personal information. Literal dumpster diving, going through your trash. Pretexting is kind of asking some leading questions and hoping that you will respond and give them information back. Hacking into databases and computers, literal just stealing, someone taking your purse, taking your wallet, taking your personal papers, stealing your mail to get information, and then use of skimming devices like at gas stations or ATM cards where they have a camera and they can access your number and then open new accounts or use that number to make charges in your name or for them that they would send to them. Other things that are just happen with identity theft, someone might steal your personal records from your workplace where you've turned in information that's important. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't know all that well everyone that comes into our homes, and someone can go through and look through your paperwork and steal information. Some people can use what you put out on the internet and get closer to you or use that information fraudulently. They can buy information from some inside sources, or if someone's standing too close to you at that ATM or when you're making transactions or you're talking on the phone, they can get that personal information that way. It amazes me sometimes the conversations and information that I pick up when I'm shopping and I hear somebody chatting on their phone and they're telling that person all kinds of information, and sometimes you can tell it's a business call and they're just sharing numbers and all kinds of things and think, oh, maybe that might not be the best thing to do when you're out in public because somebody could be listening. So how do they use this stolen information? They open new accounts, they can establish utility services, they can open new accounts and write bad checks in your name, they can open new credit lines to purchase vehicles or homes, get your tax refund, or get medical care in your name, and lots of other things as well.
With the Medicare, is that why they start taking your pictures when you go to the doctor's office?
I don't know, but that would certainly, I would think, put in another layer of protection if they have your picture in your file and then you come in to check that against it. So yeah, I didn't know. I guess our offices aren't doing that, but that's a great thing to hear. That's probably a great protection for someone coming in. Okay, so we've talked about who performs identity theft, lots of different kinds of identity theft. Now we're going to get into how can you protect yourself. So we're going to follow these 3 steps: deter, ways to safeguard your information to stay safe, detect, so how to notice if something might be going wrong, and then defend. Unfortunately, if it happens to you, what steps to take to nip things in the bud and stop the damage as quickly as possible. Because time is of the essence. Okay, so deter. We've got a couple pages of tips for how to avoid becoming a victim. We talked a couple times today about investing in a shredder. And a crosscut shredder is the best thing to have. So shred anything with personal information before you dispose of it. I've even heard of people who, if they have a dedicated trash can to shred, they'll even, before they dispose of that shredded material, will put some water in it so that everything kind of blurs together and really makes it unreadable. That would be just another layer of protection for you. Protect your social security number. When anyone asks you for it, just ask why they need it. Do they really need to have that number, or is that just a standard thing that's been on their standard form for years and really isn't utilized anymore? Or if they say they need it, maybe they just need the last four. And feel free to ask, well, how is that protected? How is this information protected that I give you? And then obviously too, it's a little socially awkward, but look around and see if there's somebody standing right behind you who might be listening to that number, and safeguard that information. Don't give out personal information unless you know who you're dealing with. So those might be the phone calls that come into your home asking you for information. Sometimes they're legitimate, but if it was a call that you didn't initiate, or a call that's being returned to you, maybe say, well, you're asking me for information and I didn't initiate this call, and I just want to make sure that everything's on the up and up. So let me call you back regarding this. Hang up, look up that phone number from that company in an outside source, because obviously if you ask that person, what's your number, let me call you back, that might not help you. But if it's a bank that's called, look in your phone book or on the internet for the bank's number, call them back and make sure that that was a legitimate request. Don't use obvious passwords, 1, 2, 3, 4, password, that kind of thing. And change your passwords frequently. Keep your information secure in your home. Utilize, especially that social security number or important documents. Either utilize a lockbox in a bank or have a personal safe at home. There are a lot of filing cabinets that lock too, drawers that lock if you have sensitive information, especially with your social security number and things in there. And guard your mail from theft. So if you're sending outgoing mail, try to drop it off at the post office or in one of those blue boxes. Or if you don't have a locked mailbox, kind of know when your carrier's coming and try to get it out of that box as quickly as possible. More steps to deter: minimize the number of cards and information you carry with you. This could also be a money-saving thing. If you just take out all the credit cards in your wallet except one, then you might be less tempted to spend on all of the other credit cards that are in there. So take a look through that wallet and say, what do I really need in here? After participating in an identity theft workshop myself, I took that hard look through my wallet and realized, wow, I'm carrying 4 or 5 credit cards in here, and I really only use one credit card and my debit card, so I took everything else out. And if I have a store card that I utilize sometimes, if I'm going to go to that store, I put that card in there for the day and then take it back out when I'm done with it. It just helps protect my information. And then you don't have that moment if the worst thing happens and it's stolen from you of, what was in my wallet? I can't remember all the things that are in my wallet. So that minimizes the amount of things that a thief may have access to if the worst thing happens. Always take your receipts with you. Shield your hand, or move your body when you're entering a PIN in one of those machines if you're making a purchase. Don't let your credit card out of your sight. A lot of times in restaurants, you finish, if you want to pay by credit card, the waiter or waitress takes your card away from the table, it's out of your sight. I'm sure most waiters and waitresses are fine, upstanding people, but there are cases that occur where someone will, copy down that number or shade it over, and they have your number to make fraudulent purchases. And clean out your car. Don't leave personal information and data and mail and things in your car that could, if someone breaks into your car, that they could take and use. Deterring, we've talked a couple times during this morning about the increase in tax ID theft. There is a way that the government has put in to help protect you from being a victim of that, and you can apply for an identity protection, personal identification number, an IP PIN, by mailing in IRS form 14039. It will indicate when you fill out this form that you are supposed to be concerned about being at risk for identity theft, but with the huge data breaches that we've had, the huge public data breaches, both LinkedIn has been breached, and some of the email accounts, and Yahoo I think has been breached. So most of us could probably genuinely say, we could have a concern that some of our data has been breached. And you can, when you file your taxes, you have to input this PIN number to be able to file your taxes. Even if someone has your Social Security number, if they don't have this PIN, they will not be able to get your refund. Now, along with that, neither will you. If you apply for this PIN, you have to keep up with it because you will have to have this in the future to get your tax refund. But this is just another layer of protection for you if you are concerned at all about your tax refund being stolen. And if you want to utilize this for this tax year, 2016, you would have to apply for this number before the end of this year. Others ways to deter with keep your technology as secure as possible. Make sure your operating system security patches are up to date. Use antivirus and firewall protection. Secure your wireless network. Use strong passwords that you change. Make sure that you're on the correct website. A lot of fraudsters will make websites that are very close to the one, so if you mistype something, you could be on something that looks just like the real website that of someone who's trying to get your information and use it fraudulently has created. So look for that closed padlock and HTTPS, that tells you it's a secure site. And put passwords on your smartphone, which I do anyway, because then if I don't, my children will be on my smartphone. I don't want that. So. Another way to help deter is just have less things coming into your home and get fewer of those marketing calls. So utilize the opt-out marketing databases. So you can opt-out screening, you can call this toll-free number and say, hey, stop this stuff coming to my house, or opt-out prescreening.com website and have fewer things coming into your home in the mail. And stop telemarketers by getting on the Do Not Call registry at donotcall.gov, or there's our toll-free number. It won't stop everything, but it is supposed to stop the unsolicited calls that come to your home. If you've been donating to a certain charity, they're still allowed to call you because you have a relationship with them. But hopefully getting lined up with both of these options will help less unsolicited mail and unsolicited phone calls coming into your home. Okay, so those were all of the ways we can deter. What do we have to look out so that we can detect if things are not quite right and might be happening to us, if our information might be at risk? Just be alert. Know when your bill, around what time of the month your bills and other mail that you regularly expect should be coming in. And if they don't come at that time, follow up and figure out what's going on. If for some reason you're denied credit and you don't understand the reason, follow up on that and figure out what's going on. Any calls or letters from creditors, medical providers, law enforcement that are just, well, I don't know what this is, this doesn't make sense. If there, again, we've talked about if there's a delay in processing of your income tax refund, and always check over if you get your medical explanation of benefits in the mail from your insurance company. Look over that and just make sure that what's on there lines up with what you would expect, the different appointments or procedures that you actually had. Look over your credit report. We had a whole class on this and how important it is to inspect that credit report. By law, you can have there are 3 credit reporting bureaus, and you can get 1 free credit report a year from each of the major credit bureaus. You can order that online from annualcreditreport.com and just space it out during the year and keep an eye on those credit reports. And lastly, look at your financial statements when they come. Don't just pay your bills online without reading over that credit card statement, or your bank's balancing your checking account. Make sure that the transactions that are on there are things that you actually did. And finally, last but very important, defend. If the worst happens and despite your best efforts, identity theft happens to you, it is crucial and essential to take these 4 steps as quickly as possible to mitigate any damage. First, close the accounts that have been tampered with or opened fraudulently. Second, contact at least one of the major credit bureaus and put a fraud alert on your credit account. And these are the information for TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Third, file a police report to obtain an identity theft report. This is a report that comes through the Federal Trade Commission, and they will give you an identity theft affidavit, which will be very useful when you work with the credit bureaus and when you work with the companies to help clean up your record, to establish a record and a paper trail that this has happened to you and you're trying to clean up this mess. And then and the last, that was the police report. Sorry, that's my bullet came in. Third was, sorry, this one, my presentation messed up a bit. So the 4 steps: close the accounts, place the fraud alert on your credit report, file a police report with your local police to obtain the identity theft report, and then the last one is the complaint with the FTC to get the identity theft affidavit. So you'll have 2 reports, one from the police and one from the FTC, that will help you clean up the mess that has been made by these thieves. So, there has been some legislation enacted that also helps support the victims of identity theft. Through the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the credit bureaus must correct inaccurate information. So if your credit report is looking bad because of information that is fraudulent and that it has nothing to do with you, they have to fix that. They have to investigate any questions, and they have to do it in a reasonable time frame within 30 days and report back to you. And if you if you go to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission website, they really have a great website addressing identity theft. It takes you step by step in making up your own action plan that you need to do to clear up the issues. And they have some sample letters and things that you would mail to companies that where fraudulent activity may have come. So that they really have a great website developed there. We talked about the credit bureaus investigating. The credit bureau has to give you a free copy of your credit report when the disputed information is fixed, and they have to send copies of that credit report to anyone who requested it within 6 months. And other legal provisions that have been put in place to protect you. There are liability limits, again, but you have to act quickly so to limit your losses. With credit card theft, the maximum liability that you could be responsible for someone misusing your credit card, like if your wallet gets stolen and the thieves use your credit card fraudulently, is a $50 maximum liability that you would have to pay out of pocket for the charges that they make. If you report it before it is used, before the thieves use it, you notice right away your wallet's been stolen and you call right away, you are not liable for any of the charges that they make on your card. And there's no liability to you if you can prove that only the credit card number was stolen. So if you have the card, and like in that situation, if someone walks off with your card, takes your number and starts making charges, but you still have the card, then you aren't liable for any charges that come from that. Credit cards are good because they do have a very low liability limit that you might be responsible for. ATM cards, it can be a little higher, so a lot of people caution against using things like ATM cards when you're shopping online and things, because your losses could be greater. If you report that theft within 2 business days, you have a maximum $50 liability. It can be up to $500 if you don't notice until you get your bank statement and you're looking over and you report within 60 days. You could be responsible for $500. If you don't check those bank statements over and you don't notice these unauthorized charges, if it's after a 60-day window, 2 months of bank statements coming through, you could be responsible for all of it, and anything that puts your account in the negative. So be very careful with that information. And then prepaid cards, that could be your store cards that you buy, your gift cards and things. Unfortunately, unless they're registered in some way, and that depends on the company, you could potentially lose all of the money that's on the card. So these you have to safeguard very carefully when you carry those on your person. And I think that's all that we had on our topic for talking about identity theft today. Want to highlight what we have coming up. Next week we'll talk about predatory lending. The week after, finances for W-9 contract workers, and then we'll go through and present more into December. And any questions about identity theft?
Have you kept up with the Wells Fargo hearings?
I have not. Just aware that that was out there, and that they're putting, Wells Fargo is supposed to be putting in some new parameters that won't, sometimes when, the metrics measure the wrong thing, when employees are being compensated based on metrics that encourage them to commit fraud, they need to change those so that you're measuring the right thing. So I did see that they're changing for their sales staff so that they're not going to be measured on things like opening new accounts. But I haven't seen the repercussion for the consumer side.
Yeah. Where does that fit on identity theft?
I don't know that it does. I think it was more that they were opening accounts, and I don't know whether they were using people's information fraudulently, or just opening these that may or may not have been attached to other people to show that their sales numbers were better.
They were taking their consumers who had accounts and opening multiple fraudulent accounts under their information. So like one person who came in and opened one account could have as many as like 10 or 12 false accounts open under their name.
Well, then I would hope that Wells Fargo would be huge in helping them clean all that mess up. And so, yeah, that would certainly fall under the category of identity theft.
I had a phone call, I want to say maybe 2 years ago. It was a guy calling saying he was from Publishers Clearinghouse, because I had, of course, signed up for the Publishers Clearinghouse to win. And he called and he had a Jamaican accent. And he said, "Yes, ma'am, Natasha, you won $1 million with Publishers Clearinghouse." And I'm half asleep, during this conversation. I'm like, hold on, what? I won what? $1 million, and we carried on at least a 10-minute conversation. I didn't give away any information. And so, and then like near the end of the conversation, she's like, "Okay, what I need you to do is I need you to go to Walmart and get bring a check or a money order with $1,000 in order for you to retrieve your $1 million." I was like, "No, hold on, that doesn't even make any sense." I said, "Because if I had to pay $1,000 to receive $1 million, I said, why can't you just take the $1,000 out of the $1 million and give me my money?" He's like, "Well, no, that's not how that works, ma'am. There's going to be a man waiting there for you. You give him the money order or check for $1,000, and then you'll wait for your check in the mail." And I was like, "Okay, well, this is the end of that conversation. I guess I just won't be receiving my $1 million."
Yeah, that's scary, but
Yeah.
a lot of people fall for that, or there are new risks with people calling. I don't know if you saw in the news recently where someone called, and I think they had gotten some of the information from social media, and said, "We've kidnapped your granddaughter,
I've seen that.
Sue,
Yeah.
and you have to wire this money to us,
Right.
and if you contact anyone, we're going to harm her," and so
Right.
forth. And there was a woman in this local area, who did that and transferred money, and then later in the day found out that her granddaughter was perfectly
It was just
safe,
fine, right?
but she was out all of that money.
I had seen something similar to that on Discovery ID, where actually this man actually used, he used that scenario, saying that he had kidnapped the people's significant others, women actually. He was after women, saying that he had kidnapped their significant others, and for them to meet him in the room in return for sexual favors, he would not harm their spouses. And a lot of women actually fell for that.
Oh, gracious.
So it was very disturbing, not to say the less, but this one woman actually thought enough to say, "Okay, let me call my husband to see if he's fine," which was strange to me, while the other ones didn't think that, but they caught him, of course. But it was just, it's crazy with the length that people will go
Yes.
to do things to harm other people.
Yes. Yes, and especially when I mean, that's so scary.
It is very scary.
It would, if they say, I have this person whom you love in your life, and if you make I'm monitoring you, and if you make these calls, I will hurt this person. I mean, you would be very hesitant to call the police or call the person and follow up. So, yeah, there's a lot, but that's kind of like the radar. If they call and it's not making sense, or they're asking him for information, just try to, keep your wits about you and ask those important questions so that you don't fall victim. They obviously they know what they're doing, and they play on your emotions, and they try to speak in terms that, well, if you just transfer this, and this is part of our process and so forth, to confuse you, and make you feel scared and unsafe, and to take advantage of you.
Right.
Does anybody have any other questions? Anything to share? All right, well, thank y'all so much for being here. I hope everybody learned something, took away something today that you may not have known before.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.